Number 2, self-awareness. 70% of people don't even know their emotions as they experience them. They just react to them. You made me angry. Can anyone make you angry? The only person who can make you angry is you. But many people don't actually understand that. So an awareness of your own emotional state and ability to regulate that. Here's the third part. This is the heart of it. This is social awareness, which is looking beyond the tip of your own nose to actually look at the people around you and say, well, what do you need? To be aware of where people are at. And the fourth part is about the social skill, the ability to be able to connect and communicate. So there's 4 different key parts to emotional intelligence. Another study by Daniel Goleman back in 2000 actually did a study on emotional intelligence and business results. What they found was that the climate, which is the culture, which is created by the leader, was responsible for nearly 1/3 of business results. Teams led by executives with a high level of EI exceeded their targets by 15 to 20%. The teams that had leaders with low EI underperformed by on average 20%. You could take a leader from one of those high-performing teams, put them into one of the lower-performing teams, and what would happen? The team would come together, because the team's not about an individual, it's about someone with the skill to bring together a group of individuals. On average, the high EI leaders were $250,000 a year more productive than their counterparts. Is that an investment worth making? If the leaders in your organisation had a higher level of EI, what would that mean to your bottom line? This is another interesting study by Harvard, and they looked at what is it that makes leaders successful, and they said, well, we think it's probably 3 things. We think it could be IQ, which is intelligence, technical skill, and emotional intelligence. How important is IQ to being a successful leader? Give me a correlation from 0, which is not at all, to 100%. Give me a number. 20%? 20 to 40? 70%? 60% IQ? 33? 63.7? Would it interest you to know that the answer is actually 8 to 9%? IQ is not useful for a lot, except your ability to solve out-of-the-box problems on a piece of paper. It's a nice repeatable test. However, other research has shown that IQ only correlates 30% with the rest of your life, which means that it doesn't correlate with 70%. So having a low IQ is never an excuse to hold yourself back. And in fact, a high IQ is an impediment as a leader. Because if you think you're smarter than everyone else, what do you tend to do? So, technical skill. Obviously, we need to be high in technical skills to be a successful leader, right? Obviously. Come on, what are you, crazy? Correlation between technical skill and success as a leader is 8 to 9%. Why do most people get promoted into management and leadership roles in Australia? Either because they've been there longer than anyone else, they know a lot, or they seem smart. Yes? What happens when you promote someone who knows a lot and thinks they're smart to the teams that they manage? The team fails. Why would the team fail? Very often. People with a high IQ who know a lot, think Sheldon from Big Bang, what do they tend to do? Lack social skills, and they always have the answer. And if you don't agree with me, then you're obviously wrong. They always want to be correct. They'll always put being correct above everything else. How many people, when they're put into a leadership role, actually get some training on emotional intelligence? Very, very few. What the study found was that emotional intelligence was more than double both IQ and technical skill combined in terms of the correlation with leadership success. But the good news is at the end of the day, emotional intelligence can be learned. It's just another skill that you can pick up if you have an interest in it, if you're prepared to work at it. What happens as we get older? We tend to get stuck in our comfort zones. Think back to when you were learning to ride a bicycle. You fell off, you skinned your knee. Was that the end of it? Did you say, well, obviously I was never destined to ride a bike? Or did you jump back on and keep working at it? You see, very often we confuse in our heads the difference between failing and being a failure. If we fail at something, are we a failure? Why not? Depends on what you do with that failure. That failed attempt. You see, one of my beliefs is you either win or you learn. In life and in business, you either win or you learn. And if you don't learn, it'll happen again and again. Very often we need to take the learnings a couple of times before we're ready to act on them. Because is it easy to be in denial about it? Is it easy to blame someone else when things don't go right? Effective leaders also have the ability to adapt their leadership style. So, leadership is fairly simple, but it's not easy. It's not about you. You ever heard that saying, treat others as you want to be treated? Does that apply to leadership? Does that apply to leadership, yes or no? Absolutely not. Treat others as they want to be treated. You see, what happens so often, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. If me as a person, I don't need nurturing and I don't need recognition, do you think I'm going to be giving that to all of my team? Yes, if I'm emotionally aware. And I've had those conversations and understand what my team actually needs. You know that be, do, have? That's the formula you use in leadership. Because leadership is all about understanding the context and the people. In this moment, who do I need to be and what do I need to do to have the results that I'm looking for? You see, the event that happens, it's neither positive nor negative. 90% of it is how we respond to it. And effective leaders have the ability to adapt their leadership style. The Hay-McBair study actually found that there were 6 different leadership styles. Coercive, which is leading through carrot or stick, yeah? Authoritative, do as I say. Affiliative, come on guys, all together, we can do this. Democratic, let's put it to the vote. Pace setting, I'm going to lead from the front, come on guys, come on. And coaching. Guys, don't you think it'd be a great idea if you could move over there? So there's 6 different styles, and the important thing is to recognize when you need to shift between those styles. One of the things that's interesting is, depending on where we're actually strong in our leadership style, in our emotional intelligence competency, will also dictate how we tend to lead. If we're strong on the self-management, do we tend to think we can make better decisions than everyone else? So very often our leadership style will be, well, I'll decide, you guys follow. If we're higher in self-awareness, we tend to be, well, empowering others, why don't you decide? If we're high on social skill, we tend to be much more democratic and we'll say, well, let's decide together as a team, guys. Let's come up with a voting process. We'll make sure everyone's happy. The self-management side of things tend to fall into 2 distinct leadership styles, the pace setting and the coercive. And the challenge with these 2 styles is they cause dissonance within your team. If you rely on these 2 styles. What's dissonance? Well, it's the opposite of resonance. You know, resonance, think about when you hold a tuning fork next to a guitar and the string starts vibrating. You know, that's resonance, that's what great leadership is all about. Dissonance is when it starts vibrating out of frequency. Does it sound good when we have dissonance? Do we have an effective team when we have a dissonant team? Self-awareness, very often it'll be the come with me style or asking coaching questions. The we decide will either use democratic or the affiliative approach. So one of the things is to understand where we need to be based upon where our team is at. What's the maturity of the team? Who are we working with at that time? What is it that causes happiness? Does success cause happiness? Hello? Does success cause happiness? Come on, you've read all those self-help books. When you achieve your goals, you're going to be happy, right? No. Here's a really interesting thing I want to put to you. Happiness causes success more than success causes happiness. You see, one of the things is we're sold this big lie that we're going to be happy when we get that new car, when we achieve that goal. But one of the interesting things I've found in life is the bigger goal you set, when you achieve it, what actually happens? How do you feel? So I remember when I set a goal to run my first marathon. And I trained and I trained and I focused and I got there and I ran there and I got to the end and I thought, this is awesome, this is amazing. Well, I did, but what happened a couple of days later? You see, one of the things to understand is that all progress takes place using something called a sigmoid curve, which is a version of the sine wave. And it doesn't matter where we're at, what's important is where we're going. You see, when we set a goal, which Steve is going to force you to do over the next couple of days, when we know where we are and we know where we're going, can we start heading towards it? So when humans went from the Earth to the Moon, it takes about 3.5 days, what percentage of the time were they on target? Heading bang at the Moon. 3. So success is about constant course correction, knowing what the target is and keeping moving up this curve. As we're moving up that curve and measuring our progress, how are we feeling? Good? Head a little bit off track, come back on track. What happens when we reach our goal normally? How are we feeling about here? Not so good. So one of the things that's important is you've always got to have a vision beyond where you're at to keep you moving in a forward direction. You were made to go forwards. Studies have found that happiness, being happy, will increase your level of intelligence, your creativity, and your energy levels. Happiness is just a decision that you make when you jump out of bed in the morning. You'll be more productive, you'll sell more, you'll be more resilient.